Hi everyone, welcome to our 17th 1,000 Little MS Things podcast. Here live in LA. Well, it's not live, but we're here anyway. First of all, I'd like to introduce my wife, Claire. Hi, darling.
Okay.
All right, we're a bit tired today, aren't we?
Yeah.
We sort of threw that mattress out there and put everything together very quickly, but we made it. Next to her, I'd like to welcome back the face of MS on screen, Radha Mitchell. Good to have you here again. And obviously fresh off the set of Neighbours once again.
If only.
And so next to her is our little Aussie mate, Bianca Gruffudd.
Griffith. Come on.
Yeah, Griffith.
Yeah, it's Griffith. It's
Griffith.
Yeah, it's spelled Grufford, but it's the Welsh spelling
Griffith.
of Griffith.
Griffith.
Yeah.
But not least, our very special guest. I haven't even got a lot of time to introduce how much this woman's accomplished in the world of MS. Nancy is the founder of Race to Erase MS. Now it's 33rd year?
Yeah.
And Race is dedicated to the treatment of the ultimate cure of multiple sclerosis, or proceeds and raise benefits the Centre Without Walls program. Is that right, Nancy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I started Race to Erase MS 32 years ago.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with MS 33 years ago, and at the time it was quite a devastating diagnosis. There was no known cause, no cure, no drugs on the market, and very little hope that there would ever be anything. And all the doctors told me this is an impossible disease and there's no way we're going to get through it. I was really lucky that I could go to get second opinions from some really terrific doctors, and I listened to the research that the most brilliant doctors were doing in the country, and they were all doing the same exact thing, and they were convinced that they were the only one doing these particular studies. Harvard was doing the same thing that Yale was doing, that Johns Hopkins was doing, that the Cleveland Clinic was doing. And I said, well, they're doing that here, they're doing that there. And they go, look, you don't know what you're talking about, you're not a doctor. I said, yeah, but I'm a terrified patient who has MS. And I have 3 children, and I cannot afford to not be fine. It's just all there is to it. And I sort of a light bulb went off in my head. I thought, if we could put the best and the brightest people to work together as a team, to never duplicate, to constantly communicate, we would find a cure for MS a heck of a lot sooner. And today, the exciting thing is there's 25 drugs on the market to help stop the progression of MS. For somebody newly diagnosed today, there's so much hope, and there's so many things happening. It can really, if you're newly diagnosed and you start taking this medicine right away, it's the B-cell depleters. We asked ourselves the question a long time ago. We developed some medications, but they were working at about 20 to 40% of the people, and they were making them feel very sick. They had flu-like symptoms, and they were all very depressed. And the doctors are saying, but look, the MRI looks good. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter if the MRI looks good. How's the patient? How's the person's quality of life? It doesn't matter. They go, but you're missing the point. It's so important. I said, but they feel like hell. I mean, you can't make people feel sick all day and depressed and like they have the flu all day.
Is that a side effect? Or
Yeah, partially having MS makes people depressed naturally. These medications were making you depressed. So it was just all over the place. You were really depressed. So we asked ourselves the question. I said, why do your T cells start attacking each other? What starts a mechanism happening that the T cell attacks each other and then the demyelination happens? Let's figure out if we can stop it before it starts. So that question was answered by B cell therapy. We decided when the B cells are elevated in your body, that starts the whole mechanism. So if we can kill your B cells off, you will not have new MS attacks. And it works really well. So there's 2 medications out. One is Ocrevus, and you have an IV twice a year, and it works very well. And another one is called Kesimpta, and it does the same thing, and you give yourself a shot once a month, and it depletes your B cells. And we are thrilled that they're helping like 92% of the people, which is
that
a miracle.
the same kind of concept as chemotherapy, where they're wiping your immune system, they're actually killing off the immune system?
No, because chemo is doing a whole different thing with everything in your body. I mean, and it's making you completely sick. This is just taking, I guess, the unnecessary. They're just, it's hard to explain it. You have to look into a laboratory. What is a B cell? Whatever the B cell is, and when it presents itself, we have lots of different cells in our body. But the B cells seem to be the ones that are in charge of creating this mechanism, starting where your body starts attacking each other. it's attacking its different cells. So the idea is if you can get rid of the B cells that you don't need them, and you can survive without your B cells, which is great, because you say, well, what do we do? And we've asked ourselves the question too. There's probably some good B cells and some bad B cells, and so how do we disintegrate again? Which is the right thing? How do we kill the right B cells?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're working on that, because maybe we don't want to kill all of your B cells. We just want to kill the bad B cells.
There's something very interesting about the philosophy of getting doctors to work together but not in competition, not taking each other's research but sharing.
Yeah, that's
When I was first diagnosed, it was fascinating to me how they're so competitive. And you know, like, if you really care about saving a life, there's no room for competition. You know, you should have some great thrill in life by saving a life. I know that every year, if I see that we've even helped one person when we have our event, I feel like amazingly ecstatic and good that we could do that. You know, most doctors are very good people, but you know, it's a job. They wake up every day. They have egos, as does everybody, and they want to do good. And you know, a lot of times they want their name on the cure. So a long time ago, when I was listening to all the different research that they were doing, we thought, well, you know, let's drop a contract. Let's make it so that, you know, you'll all be part of the Center Without Walls group, which we did develop some 30 years ago. And it was very virtual before today, before people had, you know, the computer doing all this and that. We had a person who flew from center to center. She flew to all the hospitals and made sure that they were putting all this information to this website that they were all, you know, they were all getting each and sharing every month. And I don't know if you even called it a website then. It was just a big email that they all got. Yeah, it was established very differently, but kind of did the same thing. But they had to share, so we were sort of this contract at the time. And the idea was you guys all have to, you know, report everything good and bad in all of your research studies. There's a lot of negative results in research, but they're not bad. You've learned so much from every bad study. So if you have a study with a bad result, that helps every other doctor who's developing another study. Maybe you're testing a drug, maybe the dose is too high or it's too low, or when you combine it with a certain different chemical compound, it has this reaction. It's important that everybody knows. And by not sharing that information, like everyone's just sitting there working in a vacuum and they're not going to get anywhere. Each of these studies costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. So our deal is that they have to report every single month what they're doing. And we make them come together several times a year. They come together in LA twice a year. There's another medical conference that they come together at that I was at recently in Palm Beach, Florida. And there's huge amounts
Or
of
MS?
Or MS, yeah.
Wow.
There's this big conference, and then we have something that we have the day before the big conference starts with 100 of our doctors called the NAMES Conference. And it started off as an imaging conference. And it's grown. I mean, it started off with 4 doctors, and it's 100 of doctors coming in from all over the place now. It was pretty fascinating to see it. And then the next day, there's something called ACT rooms, and there's 1,000 doctors from all over the country that come in. It's huge. And now this didn't used to exist in MS, that you'd have this many people getting together. There was no. People were talking, and it was like a big, deep, dark secret. People who had MS didn't want to talk about it.
But even up until like fairly recently, you know,
Yeah.
like
It is
I was
right.
diagnosed in 2018 in Australia, so it was a little, you know, things were a little bit different. But you know, there was no hope still back then for me. Everything was very dark and negative, and you know, there's only 9 drugs on the market, I was told. You know, and none of them are going to cure you, and you've got a really difficult life ahead. You know?
Are they all
And
the
that was
same drugs
2018.
here and in Australia, or are they different?
They're the same ones, yeah, but back then, I guess if there were more in America back then, they hadn't made it to Australia yet. So I was given a pamphlet for 9 drugs and told,
Pick one.
Try one now.
pick one. I recommend this one, and it was Gilenya back then.
And did you want Gilenya?
I did, and I was severely allergic to it, and it caused so many more issues for me than not. It caused
It's a tough
terrible,
drug to take.
terrible
It is a tough
gastric
one.
issues,
It can be very tough.
and I found out the hard way
Oh,
in public that I was severely allergic to it.
Tell us more. Yeah.
And that was embarrassing. You know, and then it was like, oh, okay, well, because there was so little options, it
Are
was
you
like,
on Ocrevus now?
I'm on Tysabri now.
Is that working
And
for you?
I guess, yeah, I mean, it has and it hasn't. It did what it was meant to do for a long time, and then I had 2 breakthrough attacks on it, which you are just not meant to have. You know,
Have you looked into going on Ocrevus or Kesimpta?
Yeah, I have. I've asked so my doctor is Dr. Regina Berkovich, and in Los Angeles.
Australia? Oh, and
Yeah, in my doctor in Australia is Professor Pamela McComb,
Are they
and she's brilliant.
talking
and,
together?
They did in the beginning when I first moved over. There was a lot of communication, but not anymore.
Yeah.
When I went to Australia recently, they had to get back into communication
were you at our
and send each other
conference
reports.
Were you there yesterday?
I wasn't there yesterday. I was not well yesterday,
Okay.
so
You know what, you should actually go online and you can get a copy of yesterday.
yeah.
And
Can you? What's the name? Kemsita? Is that how you say it?
Kesimpta.
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 That's the one that I'm really interested
I
and
like
curious
it
about
because
at the
then you can
moment.
give yourself a shot. And
Yeah.
especially if you travel around and you want to do that. I mean, they're both basically the same drug packaged differently.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
But they
Yeah.
have a slightly different compound?
No, they're the same thing, but one you have a shot, you have an IV once every 6 months, and one you give yourself a shot. It's like a prepackaged shot, and you put it in your refrigerator, and you keep it there, and you just give yourself a shot.
You know,
Once a month.
What are you doing?
I take Ocrevus, which is twice a year, IV.
And that's it.
No side effects. Love it.
Wow.
You're on to Sabri.
I went to Sabri for
You're 5 years.
5 years
Yeah.
to Sabri.
Did that work well for you?
It worked.
But this has been. I think this has been better.
Ocrevus is better. I'm happy
Mm.
with Ocrevus. No side effects.
Tysabri is difficult to be on after a while.
Yeah, and I imagine my T cells went, my T cells went
Yeah,
too
T
high.
cells.
Went too high. I could cough that.
Right.
But you're gonna be excited that I just went to this same medical conference and I saw them showing it a much better way. So instead of having that infusion that takes many hours,
Yes.
you're gonna be able to do it in 7 minutes.
How good's that?
That's amazing.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
and it's not being connected to like an IV thing. You just put the shot in. It's the coolest thing ever. So it's coming out now, and I'm sure it will make its way to Australia, but
Yeah.
very soon. But
Very slow.
So if you break it all down, MS is what?
the word multiple means many. The word sclerosis means scarring. So it's many scars that are forming on your brain and your
I didn't even know
spinal
that.
cord. And it's an
I didn't even know that.
autoimmune disease, and little bits of myelin are eaten away. We all have this protective myelin, which is like a fatty coating around our nerves and our spinal column, and little bits of it get eaten away, and those are the multiple scars, so the many scars that form. And depending on where they lie, if they go up or down a millimeter to the left or the right, they affect completely different function in your body. So it's kind of like a snowflake. No two snowflakes are the same. So no two people's MS is identical either. And sometimes they say if something happens on the left side of your brain, it affects things on the right side. And if it happens on the right side, it affects things on the left side of your brain. I don't know that I believe that anymore, because when I have MRIs, and this is probably controversial that I should say this, they look at my MRI and they go, wow, you shouldn't be walking, that's crazy. And I'm like, I really don't like to have MRIs because they tell me how bad I am.
Yeah.
And it puts it in my head, and I'm like, I have to immediately lose it because I somehow am doing very well, and I'm very lucky.
Do you think there's something about the spirit that
Oh,
transcends
100%.
the body?
At least 100%. I believe you
good.
can will yourself into
Yeah.
being better to
Yeah.
a degree.
I
agree.
believe
I
it.
agree.
I really think people with really bad attitudes who feel really sorry for themselves do really badly.
Really terribly.
There's no room to feel sorry for yourself. You can't.
How do you
have
not
to
be
live your
grateful?
life. You know what? I think you're entitled to your moment. You
Yeah.
are. And I think you have to mourn it and live with it a certain way. But then I think you need to go on. And when you wake up, I know every day, I'm like, every
a
morning,
choice.
every
It's a
morning,
choice.
if I put my feet on the ground and I can feel the ground, I feel, okay, thank you, God. I have these moments. I open the drapes, I look outside, I look at this beautiful view, and I list 10 to 20 things every day that I'm grateful for. This is my gratitude.
You do that too.
Yeah, I do that
don't
too.
you? Yeah.
And I just, instead of me dwelling on the negative, which is so easy to do, because there's a million negative things that happen every day in our lives, I start making myself only focus on what's positive. And one of them is Race to Race MS, is the people I meet like you that are helping us, that I can walk, that I can be a mother to my children. To me, that's absolutely everything. And I feel so, very fortunate. But there was a book I read a long time ago called The Secret. I don't know if you've ever read The Secret.
I think I did, but I forgot the secret.
It's kind
What
of
is the secret again?
it's a very interesting book, but I think I was going through a very sad, dark time.
And I was feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I read The Secret. And then I found myself dog-earing every single page and underlining everything. I said, well, wait a minute, you're only supposed to do that occasionally in a book. I'm not going to be able to go back to it, so I have to go read the whole book again. So I started feeling like I needed, whatever you project in your head is what's going to happen.
You know, when I got
And if you look for
diagnosed,
the
I
good,
did
you
the
find
same.
it. If you look for the bad, you find it.
Oh yes, yellow
It's a-
butterflies.
Yes.
Nancy, I just want to go back to the drugs. How many of the drugs that are on the market now has race contributed to bringing
so
on?
What Race to Race MS does is we fund pilot studies. We start these drugs in the very beginning. And none of the drug companies ever starts these studies, but we do.
Mhm.
So I would say 17 to 18 of the drugs that
Of
are
how-
out,
of
we
how-
did the pilot studies.
Wow.
And definitely with Ocrevus and Kesimpta. It was at Dr. Stephen Hauser.
I was
UC
here.
San
Ocrevus
Francisco.
came from here in the
Yeah,
States.
we started here. It was at UC San Francisco. And everybody thought it was the worst idea they'd ever heard of. And I loved it. I thought it was the best idea. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? This is brilliant.
Mm.
And a lot of the other doctors, quote unquote, who were brilliant, didn't like it. And that's where the egos, come in. However, these, it made all the sense in the world. Why, we don't know how to restore nerve damage. We don't know how to remyelinate, and we're still working on that. And hopefully, we will be there. That's our goal. But will it stop you from having any more myelin disappear that we don't know how to put back? Why wouldn't we do this? It makes no sense. And it's for that newly diagnosed person, like, why would you not go on Ocrevus or Kesimpta? It makes all the sense in the world to me, so that you don't have this happening. It doesn't make any sense not to.
Mm.
Is there a genetic component?
There's definitely a genetic predisposition to getting MS. My little sister was a diabetic, a juvenile diabetic, and she had diabetes way before I had this. And we did these studies at the time, and we were correlating, and families were like, one sibling has one autoimmune disease, one has another. There's a lot of diabetes and MS in families going on. So then all of a sudden she got MS too, and Hashimoto's, and it was like, wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But there's just a genetic predisposition. A lot of it too, where you're living. There's a big multifactorial reason why you have it. If you grow up in a cold weather climate, there's a much higher risk of getting it.
Yeah.
Really?
So the genetics has a component, but living in cold weather, I grew up in Colorado. In my high school, I think it was like 8 other people got MS, and this was a graduating class of 100 people, and that's considered
crazy.
kind of an epidemic.
Really?
And but part of it, and we kind of feel like, when it's freezing cold and then the defrost happens and the snow and the ice, and there's something that like comes out in the air that happens. We don't know exactly what that is, but we've been trying to figure that out for a lot of years here.
Did you read, like in the news recently on the Apple feed, there was a child that was cured, I don't even know what the disease was, but a baby, they edited his genes in his infancy and cured him of some disease. Like, do you feel like with all these conversations and doctors in collaboration that we're on the verge of being able to treat MS genetically?
I hope so. I think it's great. We've done lots of studies. When the Human Genome Study came out, and we did a lot with that, it didn't really pan out, if you want to know the truth. A lot of people said this is the only answer. It was hard to get approval for the Human Genome Study to happen and make these certain things legal in our country.
Yeah.
Then they came out, and it seemed to get more confusing once it
Yeah.
happened. I just feel like you can't put all your eggs in one basket, so we fund a lot of different things all over the board. One of the things we try to do is fund young doctors. Young doctors, they're learning medicine a completely uniquely different way than the older doctors. We have brilliant old doctors who are amazing, they give such great sage advice, but they're aging out. They are.
And they're also
Yeah.
set in their ways,
Right,
which is
yeah,
not a
they're
good
very
thing.
sick, but
you know?
also they used to go to the library and check out those big
Yeah.
tomes and these big books, and those are so dated now.
Now we have the
They're
whole
so
internet.
dated,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Too much.
the younger doctors have learned medicine on the internet. They
Yeah.
don't go check out these big books from the library. They have a few little ones that they can look, at some terminology, but like in the middle of the night, they say, well, here's this doctor, in Italy. I'm gonna call him now, text him, whatever, send him an email, and you get this knowledge so quickly of these really advanced studies. So we're really we make a point every year of giving these Young Scientist Awards.
That's great.
These doctors go to medical school and they usually graduate after many, many years. And they usually graduate owing like about $250,000 in student loans.
Oh, yeah.
And the hierarchy for getting your study funded is like how many studies do you have, reported? How many of you are in the medical journals? Well, if you're a young doctor, you don't have any.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to seek out is those young ones, and we want to attract them to be in MS. We want to have the next generation of the really brilliant young doctors. And so they work hand in hand with the older sort of sage doctors. And those older doctors are actually really liking that because it keeps them all busy in different ways. They appreciate that someone looks up to them, but they're also teaching them a different way and keeping them, sort of disciplined within what they're doing. And so I think it's a win-win. And so some of those young investigators awards, you'll see some of those young investigators awards. Those doctors are now on our panel yesterday, and they've grown up, and they're like, we thank you so much because we could have never gotten funding for our study because we were too young and too green, and there was no way anyone was going to help us. So,
What's the average study cost, Nancy, do you think, with
our
you?
studies?
Yeah.
We haven't figured out an exact way, and not everybody agrees with us, but we pay $75,000 a year. We usually fund somebody for 2 years, so it's $150,000. You hear about people donating millions of dollars to someone's study. It's not necessary.
See that we don't know that.
It doesn't need to happen that way.
Yeah.
Here's a basic laboratory that exists. Here's a doctor. You're paying for certain materials and you're paying for a portion of their time. You don't need to pay more than that.
Just
But-
pay the doctor for a study.
Well, basically, you're doing it. I mean, they have to keep the electricity on. They have to have. There's incubators. There's different things that are going on with the studies, but it's not necessary to spend these amounts. And they would like me to spend more.
How many
but
people
I'm
need
not.
to be in the test study to say this is relevant science?
Well, it depends what phase you're in of a study. It goes through different things. If you're going to a phase 3 study, you have to apply to NIH, and you have to make sure that NIH agrees with how you're conducting your study and how many people should be in a study. If you don't play ball with the NIH, or nothing, but if you don't play ball with the FDA, rather, you're not going to get FDA approval, and you need FDA approval if you're testing a new drug out, and you have to listen to what they say, and you have to listen to their rules, and they're not always the same. They change.
What's the difference between say what you're doing, Nancy, and what US MS Society is doing?
So the MS Society, I strictly fund research. I want to find the cause and the
Just
cure
for
of
people
MS.
listening that's new to
And so the MS Society, they have a lot of people that work there. they have a lot of people that work there. And
a lot of jobs for people, yeah.
a lot of, but they do some very good research. They really do, and they provide some ambulatory care for people and some PR and some different things like that. They existed when I was first diagnosed. They wanted me to get involved with them, and I looked into it, and I just felt that I could have a much better purpose in life if I would strictly fund important research and go with my vision to have the best and the brightest working together as a team, and strictly raise money for that every year.
So that's going up. Is that going up against what the MS Society does, or is it friction between the two?
Parallel.
You can say whatever you like. It's Australia.
Well, there shouldn't be friction because it's
There shouldn't be
no
a
matter
friction.
what.
There shouldn't be, but I'm just
hold-
asking the
With
question.
the MS Society, I admire any good that comes out of what they
Yeah.
do and
Yeah.
helping different people.
Mm.
Nobody's all good, nobody's all bad, everyone's doing the best they can.
Mm.
I just figured that I would be much happier, much prouder if all my money's going into research.
Yeah.
And by being small, we don't have these administrative costs that they have. I have a very tiny staff. We
How many people?
really, I really have 4 people.
Wow. So
Just
that
done.
brings just me. I'm just curious. Like we're talking from Australia. I don't think there's a person in Australia or an organisation like yours
No.
that's having
No.
this much impact
No.
globally. Maybe.
No.
How would you advise if people wanted to get activated? Maybe not do what you're doing exactly,
Yeah.
but along those lines.
You know what? I think you have to look for your purpose. And what is your purpose in life? What do you hope to accomplish? You look for your goal. Is that goal already being met? Then you should join in with somebody if you want to be part of their goal. If you want to create your own goal, you have to be very,
Driven.
very driven to put it together in a certain way. I was very frustrated when I was diagnosed. They told me I'd never walk again. Life as I knew it was over, and I was a young mom, not in a great marriage, and I didn't know who was going to take care of my children. And I looked at their 3 little baby faces, and I thought, you know what, this isn't good enough, and I don't like what they're doing. I went to another event that they had put on, and I left there crying, and I thought it was the worst thing, you know, for me emotionally at that time with my MS. And I said, I'm gonna do a charity event, but I'm gonna do one that's very optimistic, and I'm gonna make people feel good, and I'm gonna let people know where their money's really going. And my whole goal is to find a cure.
Yeah.
So you do this with a staff of 4 people
Yeah.
and you.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Huh.
Impressive.
That's enormous.
It is.
And I think,
But I have to be honest,
To do
I
it with
have
3
the best
kids and
staff of people you could ever have who are
you
so
got a good crew.
amazing and loyal. They've been with me for years, and they work their whatever off.
So it's
Yeah.
amazing what
They
4
work.
people can do.
My girls, Liz and
yeah.
Maureen and
phenomenal.
Dana and Joanna. I mean, they work so hard. The other night, I mean, we just had our event. It was 1:30 in the morning, and they're still at the office. I'm like, you guys have got to go home. This is
Wow.
absolutely not okay. This is ridiculous. But they're so driven, and they take a lot of pride in what they do. And,
But the result is that there's 25 drugs available
Exactly. Yeah.
in 30 years.
it's a miracle.
That's pretty amazing.
It's
for
a miracle.
people.
I mean, I can't take credit for every one of the drugs, but we have done pilot studies for a lot of them. I can't take credit for all 25. But we've done the pilot studies, and you know, we continue to do that. We try to find, you know, every year we find, you know, what is not being met, what needs aren't being met, how can we meet them better, how can we save lives? And we have our event, and then, you know, when we used to have that event that we had yesterday that you came to, everybody used to be in really bad shape.
Yeah.
Like, everybody came, and like, it was just, everyone was jaded.
Hungover.
I mean, everybody was on wheelchairs.
Oh, sorry.
Their
Of course.
families were pushing them in a wheelchair. They were doing very badly. They were really doing very badly.
Yeah.
And then I would say, you know, 10, 15 years ago, all of a sudden, those people that
Yeah,
their
that's
family
right.
members were pushing them in, they were pushing themselves in.
Yeah.
Then they were walking. Then they were
Wow.
opening their mouths and asking questions and
Yeah.
being very vocal and very, you know, very demanding. And I'm like, thank God. They have a voice. They're not just, you know, like a shell of a person. They're empowered and they're doing well. And
Yeah.
when I see that, and I see how we've come so far, and these people's lives have changed, and you know, it's just, it's. I mean, that's everything. I can
That's-
And they're on
That's huge,
stage and they're
yeah.
singing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
No, it's
so
amazing.
beautiful.
That was great.
There truly
It's
is something to
amazing what's
say about the
changed.
power of positivity, though.
Positivity.
Medicine has transformed physical issues as well, but that power of positivity is so important.
No, but
And
you
the
know,
moment
and
I
you-
got diagnosed, my mind told me I am going to cure this for myself, and that hasn't worked yet. But I haven't stayed away from that. And my doctor, just like you, said, I can't tell you if you're going to be able to walk again.
Yeah.
And you're 25
Yeah, I don't think any
years,
doctor
you're
has the
25
right.
years
The
old.
doctor doesn't have the right to say that because they put that in your head.
Yeah.
They can find out people with cancer
But
and
if
other
I was
diseases
negative
that
and I
happens.
went, and I told everybody, and I walked around and I said, I'm never going to walk again, I'm never going to walk again. I'm not going to, because your body listens to you as much as anything else. So
There's a great quote.
You just-
Whether you think
it
you
just-
can
look at
or you
Nancy.
think you can't, you're probably right.
positivity.
Yeah.
You have to go with that quote. You have to think about
We
it.
actually did a podcast earlier where we talked about, in a way, how the diagnosis was quite transformative in terms of turning your life
Yes.
around, actually really focusing on what you want
Yeah.
and what you need.
I don't think you can go through that diagnosis at that time. I mean, I think I kind of just got in just before the big positive notion of MS came in, and so it was quite scary and dark, and oh my god, fuck, I'm gonna be in a wheelchair, you know, oh my god. And I think you gotta stop laughing at all that. Radha's got the
Bianca's,
gigglies.
I love Bianca's.
I think that's not what happened. You know, that's just not what happened.
You know, I think you were lucky, by the way,
Yeah,
to be diagnosed when you were diagnosed.
And I feel exactly
Because when I was
the same
diagnosed, there
thing.
was
I
zero
genuinely
drugs.
feel lucky.
So every year,
Yeah.
the later someone's diagnosed, the more lucky they are because there's
Yes.
more options.
I
agree with you. And it's not one size fits all.
No.
And people have to find the thing that's right for them.
Yeah.
And if something's not working, you also owe it to yourself to be very verbal to your doctor.
Yeah.
So many
Yeah.
people will never get a second opinion. And I wrote a book about this, and one of the biggest reasons that people don't want a second, can you get a second opinion if they're feeling lousy? They're so afraid of hurting their doctor's feelings. Now would you rather keep paying this doctor a fortune, and you're worried about hurting their feelings, or would you rather feel that you're going to the doctor to feel better?
But you do feel very vulnerable.
You have to not feel vulnerable. And when you go to a doctor, it's so important. You have all these things you're thinking about, but then when you get there, you're wearing this like flimsy gown and you feel vulnerable, and it's cold in the room, and the doctor starts talking about the weather, and you're talking about the weather, and you're like, why am I talking about the weather? I have 15 minutes to talk to the doctor, I'm talking about the weather, I'm wasting my time, right?
Record the doctor's meeting.
You walk into every doctor's appointment, you make a list ahead of time. The night before, when you're freaking out about the doctor's appointment that took so long to get into, write a list down and bring it in. And the doctor appreciates the patient that walks in with a list, because they can't read your mind either. They don't know what you're thinking. But the other night I had this thing, is this MS, is this not MS? Would it be better if I did this, should I add that? I mean, they can't read your mind, so you owe it to your own self to go in there. And the doctor gives you more time, by the way, you'll get a longer, better appointment. And he'll pay better attention if you come in with a list.
It took me years to learn that, but I do that now, and it's been life-changing. Because you don't walk away feeling terrible about yourself because you couldn't work up the courage to do something, or you forgot, or whatever. You should have a list when you go to the doctor.
Because then later on you walk out there and why didn't I ask this? Why didn't I ask that? So just
make sure this is full.
It's like if you make a list to go to the grocery store, you forget half the stuff if you don't have a list.
And you might have a doctor that has the wrong attitude.
Oh, yes.
That can be very damaging.
Oh, some of them are terrifying.
Yeah.
I've met them.
Yeah, I had an altercation with a doctor on behalf of my mom the other day, and I was like so upset afterwards. But I basically had a fight with the doctor. And
Did you beat him up?
I'm gonna go back to. But I can imagine if it's like horrible not to be on the same page with your doctor.
But you have to figure a doctor's a human being, just like all of us. They maybe didn't sleep well the night before, they had a fight with their wife, they, the kid, flunked out of school, I don't know, something, everyone has a thing happen in their life that can be traumatic, so they're humans, and you sometimes a personality doesn't mesh with theirs, and you just have to go, you have to say, can you please give me all of my records? A lot of times they don't want to give you your records, they do not.
Why?
Because they want to own, because they don't want you going to another doctor, because it's a business. It is a business, going to the doctor. They don't advertise the same way. They're not having like a sale on, T-shirts this week, but they, it's a business, and they don't want to lose customers.
Your clients, yeah.
And if you have good insurance, they really like you.
Okay, I've got another, as a non-MS person, obviously we're going into the whole realm of neurology and like the future of medicine and actively like pursuing cures for diseases, and is this going to be like a revolution in medicine that we're looking at in the next few years, do you think?
I hope so.
That things are going to change significantly?
You know what, the revolution has already happened. What we've done is like a miracle. I mean, it is a miracle. If you look at any other disease, what disease in the last 5 years, have you heard that every year they get another drug with FDA approval? No,
Yeah.
zero.
Yeah.
So what is happening in MS is a revolution. This does not happen in any other disease. I mean, every year when I get up there and make my speech, last year there was 24 new drugs on the market, the year before it was 23 new drugs on the market. Every year something happens, and that's a revolution in medicine. I don't see it with Alzheimer's. I don't see it with any of these, the childhood diseases and the vaccines and all the things that are going on with autism. I mean, it bothers me so much, and I've gone to many of these events, and I'm like, what did you do with my money last year? What's happened?
Sounds like these other diseases need somebody like you, Nancy.
No, but I know that, anybody who's working on a disease, I give them all the credit in the world. That's amazing. It's so hard to do, but there should be more happening, and they should make everybody accountable. Let's make our goal. Let's see where are we going.
I agree in the sense of what are we doing globally? Like, we're living in bodies. Everybody's going to live in a body.
I mean, I just think in medicine, I look at Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, I guess everyone's afraid they're gonna get Alzheimer's.
Yes.
And the older I get, the more I forget everybody's name. I really do. I really do, and forget things, and it's like, oh my God, do I have Alzheimer's? What's this and that?
Can you get behind Alzheimer's though?
Yes.
No.
No, but one of our doctors actually just did, and had this medicine that he's
Because
working
it's
on.
kind of related,
Yeah,
right?
no, it's a neurological thing.
Neurological, yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I just feel like, you know, whatever you fear can happen, and it's, I just feel like, you know, like, I don't have all the answers. I've done, you know, I'm so happy where we are with MS, and I have another charity too for addiction.
Yeah.
This
That's
book,
good.
so we're coming up, I had a son who had an addiction problem, and unfortunately he passed away, but we started a charity before he died, and we started about 6 years ago, and for addiction, nobody's ever bothered. Nobody bothered. There's an AA program and a 12-step program, which works for exactly 7% of the people. So it's a leading cause of death in our country, people overdosing. So what do we do with the other 93% of the people? There's no medicine at all on the market. Like, why did we not bother? So I'm doing that. And we're going full force ahead. And I find it crazy that for all these years, you know, they tell you to go to rehab, do the AA program, and if you're in that 7% that works for you, that's amazing. The AA program it's a spiritual thing. It's not medically based whatsoever. Nobody ever went to a laboratory and studied it. They're like, there was a guy named Bill W. 85 years ago who came up with the AA program, and he wrote these 12 steps, and you're supposed to go in and stay your 12 steps, and you do this, you work the program. It doesn't work for everybody. Like, you have to understand if it works for you, that's amazing. But what do you do for everyone else who keeps failing miserably, keeps trying this AA thing, and it's not helping them? My son, he came to me, he goes, Mom, AA does not work for me, it doesn't work for everybody else. We have to do what you and I have done for MS, because he helped me with my MS from day one. He didn't want his mom to be sick. He really
Good man.
And he said, we're not to extend every one of these meetings, even when he was like 10 years old, he would say to the doctors, you guys are not doing enough. My mom still has MS, she is sick, and you're not doing anything. And the doctors would like look at this little kid with the big mouth, and they're like, and I said, he's right. And they're going, And now, even yesterday we had that conversation, I go, your son always gave us such a hard time, because he wanted to save your life.
I love that.
And so, unfortunately, he's not here, but I feel like he's sitting here on my
How
shoulder.
about your daughters? Are they going to start getting involved like you?
They are involved.
Yeah.
And they really are involved, and they're in college now, and
Yeah.
even when they went to apply to colleges, they wanted to find colleges where you could major in philanthropy or you know,
Oh, wow.
doing events. So
Yeah.
it now exists at some colleges, not that many, but to a certain degree, yes. So-
What are the key in working in philanthropy? What is, obviously it's getting people to work together and
Yes.
getting, egos seem to
You
be
know,
like an issue.
it's something that should be taught at every, even high school level, because it's always thrown in your face somewhere, and it's one of the things that makes you like release your endorphins and feel good about yourself to give back. But it's nice to learn how to give back correctly, and not all giving back is maybe correct. I think we all want to see something brilliant happen. If we're giving even $1, we want to make sure it's going to the right place.
Yes.
And I think you owe it to yourself to like learn, you know, about the different organizations and study them and see where's the money going. If I'm going to give money, I want to make sure that my goal is being met. And if it's not, find another one that you feel is good, and then get behind that one and be part of that organization and something that's important to you. If you have a family member that has any particular disease, or if you have it yourself, I mean, it means a lot to do something like that.
I just can't thank you enough, Nancy, for Radha, for introducing us to her, and to you, Nancy, and what you helped us with the film last year and getting it.
The film was
premiere here.
amazing.
And you were a big part of things over here in America, and we want to thank you so much. We're so glad to have met you and coming on today. It's been great. It's been a great few days. I can't. The feeling in the room the other night when Chad sang was just amazing.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
Chad just, I mean,
He's awesome.
he really
His
is
energy
awesome.
is beautiful.
Yeah, it was just
Wow.
that was just that
It was so sweet.
that was a great night, but that was just amazing.
You know what, a year ago Chad came to our event and he sang, and he was struggling with his MS, and he really hadn't gotten the proper care. And he sat on the panel the day after, and I said, Chad,
you and I are going to lunch right now, and I kidnapped 3 of the doctors. And I said, we're doing an intervention, a different kind of intervention.
Yeah.
And I did, I really did. I said, you're not walking out of here till you're on the right medicine, and you're doing this, and you're seeing the doctors. And I kept on him a lot. He sees one of our doctors now all the time, and his health has completely changed.
Yeah, he was saying he's got feeling back on his left side.
And for the last 5 years, he couldn't even hold a guitar. He couldn't play it.
Yeah.
He couldn't take a walk. He tells me he's going the subways in New York. He shows me. He'll text me how many steps he's taking a day. He couldn't take any steps.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's coming back, and he's on Ocrevus, and he's on some other things that are helping him, and he's an example of
He's so inspiring. He's so inspiring.
He's such a great guy. He's so talented, and such a young guy to have this happen. When they had some really huge hit songs, and to have these huge hit songs, the songs say something with their
it's amazing.
They
It's
did
amazing.
it, and he's incredibly talented, and his partner Ian is incredibly talented. So they met at NYU, and they're very young, and they started writing these songs. They've had great success, but all of a sudden he can't perform his. Last year he couldn't perform his hit song, and it really bothered him, and. So now he's getting better, and he wrote that song with a guitar. He always played a guitar, and all of a sudden he couldn't play guitar. He had hurt to strum the things. He couldn't hold the weight of the guitar, the whole thing. He could sometimes do it until 10 o'clock in the morning. Then after 10, he couldn't hold the guitar anymore. And so now, like the other night, he was calling me. He goes, "Do you think I'm going to be able to hold the guitar? Can you put me on first? I want to make sure I don't get too tired."
He was nervous.
And I said, "We're putting you on before anybody. Like any of the musical acts, you're going to go on first, and we're going to make sure of it." And he did. And
It set the night up, I think.
He really did.
Well, he had that childlike energy about him, and it
Yeah,
was
he's
so
just so-
contagious.
just
It was so beautiful,
So
and
cool,
just
yeah.
it just
It's
set
so
everybody's
exciting,
tone
yeah.
for the evening.
Yeah.
No, he's very innocent and
angelic.
He's angelic
But
and
how amazing what it just 1 year can do to somebody now.
Yeah.
And the times that we're living in, that
Yeah.
12 months has transformed his life.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really beautiful thing.
But it's a beautiful thing. But he also wasn't getting the proper help. He was ignoring it. He was young, and he thought he could just. He was touring.
Denial's a big thing.
And he wasn't getting help. And all of a sudden, he was going to lose
Illness.
this thing he'd worked so hard and has such a great talent for. And now all of a sudden it's coming back. It's not all back yet, but it's getting there. And I admire him for doing that. And the song he wrote, I mean, it killed everybody.
I know,
And it was a killer.
Put the emotion in the room, yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. But anyway,
All
well,
my
thank-
daughters started crying, and
Did they? I saw one of them, yeah.
and my daughter-in-law, everyone was very upset. It was, but he's, it set it up for what the event is all about.
Yeah, and we enjoyed seeing the doctors yesterday, and that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really informative.
The doctors are like real rock stars.
Yeah.
They're really doing so much. It's fascinating what's happening there. I always learn so much.
You learned so much from them. Just listening,
Yeah.
they all had something different to bring,
Yeah.
which was brilliant.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
with AI and how AI is
AI,
actually
my
affecting
God.
us.
Yes,
And,
I love that.
and the length of like how long it takes to have an MRI.
I love that.
The MRI.
2 minutes?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
A
amazing.
very short MRI now.
What? Where?
Because of AI.
Where are these short MRIs?
Well, that's because
Yeah, they're just introducing them now.
It's a new thing.
my
It'll take a little while to
gosh.
come out, but they figure they can do
Yes.
that
Oh,
MRI.
yes.
That you sit
That
in the
excites
thing.
me.
I mean, when I had my first MRI, I was there for 6 hours in the thing. They didn't. It was, and then they got better gradually. I mean, now it's more like an hour, but now it's going to be like 2 minutes.
You used to take your whole day up.
Yeah, I'm right.
Just take our whole
they
day
just
up and
jump
you
in
just
there and
don't
have
do
a
it,
little
Well, my
MRI.
my
Like,
God.
I stopped like a
Those
little
MRIs.
MRI on the way to pick the kids up from school.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like a long thing.
Yes.
It's fun to see the technology and the things that are happening.
Catching up.
AI kind of scares me, but it is. a
Yeah, it scares us
fascinating
too.
thing to do. Yeah,
Not in medicine, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
In medicine, like.
It's gonna help things a lot.
Wonder in 50 years.
Yeah, but even if you want to write a speech or something, or
Doesn't
something,
I know. We're all guilty.
I
Put it in the chat.
I had never done that, and
I haven't done it yet. I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I
The
feel
other
about
night,
it.
I had written my speech. I'm always like, I said, make it shorter and funnier. And
Yeah.
but the funny part wasn't funny. Yeah, they were bad jokes. I haven't done them, but they did make it shorter. Like you could say something in a more concise, direct way.
Yes.
And I thought this is good.
Make it shorter.
I got someone, we were riffing on something at like a pitch, and it was for my friend. I'm like, put it in the tone of a Woody Allen. And so it came up with like,
Oh, really?
oh my God. We were
That's
laughing. It was
interesting.
actually very funny. But it was more funny because it pinpointed my friend's neurosis in a really precise way. And I couldn't stop laughing. It was amazing, actually.
You know, it's crazy, but the idea that AI and doing all these other things can help us, you know, with MS, possibly find a cure quicker, diagnose MS quicker, that's just a miracle.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So there's things happening every year that are newer and different, and the doctors, the way that they learn, the way they communicate with each other, which is critically important, is so different. When I went to this last conference, it was fascinating to me that there was 1,000 doctors at the ACTRIMS conference. And it's like, I mean, when we were trying to get these doctors, just 2 of them to talk, then 3 of them to talk, then we wanted all 8 of ours to talk. It was like, no, well, this will never happen. I'm like, well, it has to happen, otherwise we're not going to fund you. You go, okay, we're going to fund this.
They're
all of
with
a sudden-
money.
all of a
That's the
sudden
best
they're-
way.
yeah, and all of a sudden they're talking, and then all of a sudden they're meeting behind my back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, that's what you should be doing. You, like everybody on every level at a hospital, you know, the guys doing the MRI should be communicating with somebody in another city about this thing, that thing, or whatever they're finding, or a doctor, or they're finding an unusual trait in MS, and they should all communicate, because that just only helps all of us. But I think the AI thing helps that.
Yeah. Well, this has been a bit of fun and very informative. It's been cool. Thank you so much, Nancy, for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And it's been great to have you and Radha and Bianca, our friends, and we're going to get a plane going, so we'll probably get organised. But we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Great.